Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw here on Anfield Index Pro, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to Brentford 1, Liverpool 4 in the Premier League from the G-Tech Community Stadium are Dave Hendrick and Hari Sethi. A weird afternoon, Dave, which has us somewhat muted in our celebrations, which should be absolutely glorious, seeing the Reds that amount of points clear regardless of games in hand or any of that other nonsense. A brilliant win eked out in difficult circumstances, but the darkness that looms in the background is that injury cloud. It looks as if both of the ones that we're really worried about were pretty serious, especially Jota's, and now we have a little bit of angst about Darwin not coming out for the second half. So it's an odd afternoon. I don't know how to feel. Part of me is giddy, part of me is understandably a bit flattened by that.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, to go to Brentford, where we haven't won either of the last 2 years, where we've been fairly heavily battered both years. I mean, 3-3 the first year they were up, but if you go and watch that game back, they absolutely knocked us round the place. And then last year they tore us asunder at their place. So this was a tough game, even with them having not the best of seasons for one reason or another. So it was a game that we went into sort of a little bit nervous of, needing the win because City have Chelsea at home today, which is a favourable fixture, and Arsenal go to Burnley, which is also favourable. And given the tightness of the goal difference, we could easily have come out of today in third if we hadn't won. But we've gone there. We've put on, I think, a really good performance, bar the first kind of 15, 20 minutes where it just took us time to get going. We've come away with a heavy win, 4-1. It could have been more. Now, we'll get into it. There was probably a penalty for them that should have been given, but likewise, There was a penalty for us that should have been given. But yeah, I mean, the Jones one, you'd hope he's just jarred his ankle and it's nothing too serious, and it's maybe one of those that, with a couple of days of rest, the swelling will come down and it'll be okay. The Jota one looks serious. Especially when you see the replay and you see Norgard land on him, and
it could have been anything of three things. I was looking at it, and as a guy who's had his Achilles snap completely, I was wondering at the compression of that. Sometimes compression can be as bad as extension for those things. Then there was the knee, and then there was the ankle. So the whole thing looked fucking horrendous. I think they've sort nasty. They've landed on a knee injury, have they? Or does anybody know anything?
Well, when he stood up, it looked like his left knee had swollen pretty much instantaneously. And a few people have said that's potentially a marker of an ACL. But we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, and we shouldn't try and diagnose anything, because none of us are experts in the field, though we've all, especially myself and yourself, Trev, as embattled old men, we've had our share of fairly bad injuries.
Yeah.
You would hope that it's, if it is ligaments, you'd hope it's like the lateral ligament or something less severe than an ACL. I'm sure Brundish and a few others will have opinions on it, given that they'd be more in tune with what it could be. But the fact that they stretched him off and didn't want him walking off, that doesn't seem like a great sign. With the Darwin one, the hope here is that the plan from the outset was Darwin's only got about 60 in him. We're going to play him for 60, because obviously he's just back. He's had that foot issue that he's been dealing with for a little while. So the hope would be here that they knew Darwin was only going to play about 60. Because of the 2 injuries in the first half, they've just brought his substitution forward, and they've taken a bit of a gamble on, let's take him off early, get Gakpo on, and that still leaves us with 1 sub slot where we can make another 2 changes later. Fingers crossed that's the issue there. Fingers crossed the Jones one isn't too serious. I mean, he did try to come back on, and maybe he could have run it off. So it might just have been that they don't want to take any risks, because obviously Curtis has had a number of injuries over the last few years, and he's been very unfortunate with them. Hopefully this is just, a jarring of the ankle and it's nothing too serious. The Jota one is the one I think to be concerned about. It really didn't look good.
TNT had pictures, video footage of the tunnel, which appeared to show Jota walking slightly aided alongside somebody, which is a bit weird considering he was stretchered off. So yeah, look, as you say, no diagnosis here. We won't even sort of catastrophize either, because nobody knows anything, is the short version of this until we are officially told stuff. But the thing is, Harry, people often talk about this mythical notion of character. And, the one thing that has been very much a feature of Klopp-era Liverpool is that squad togetherness, the ability to fight back from being behind, the ability to withstand pressure despite the fact that the odds against us are quite overwhelming at times. And this is a real kind of a statement victory, regardless of what way you slice it. And to be finished at this stage on a Saturday. And as Dave said, yes, you fully expect the title rivals to go and do their thing, but they're still going to be looking up at us. And that's wonderful.
Absolutely. I think so often on this podcast we come on and talk through the Liverpool lens, because we're so deeply focused on everything that's going on in the club. But as you'll know, Trev, a couple of games ago was a very painful day for me and my not for my family, but it's a painful day for me to deal with it in North London.
I thought of you often, Harry, on that day. It's a dark day for this for young Sethi.
It was
struggle.
It was tough for everybody, but particularly tough for me. However, I'm going to start the pod by just sort of talking a little bit about how great it was. We should remind ourselves as well, as you say, get the win out of the way nice and early, 5-point lead at the top of the league. Just great to see a few takes from some of the Arsenal faithful, some of the City faithful, hoping for a slip up, thinking that this is the game where Liverpool are going to, maybe perhaps, suffer from all these injuries. Just seeing the frustration at full time, really good, really lots of discussion about how just, of course, Liverpool weren't very good. It was just Brentford being atrocious, nothing to do with Liverpool overcoming adversity, of course. So, yeah, you just got to drink that in. It's the special stuff. So yeah, I think this is always the best place to be in terms of weekend fixtures. The early kickoff, 100% record in these early kickoffs at the moment, which is remarkable. And yeah, clouded by the injuries, as Dave mentions there, and I think I agree with him on the severity of them as well. It looks, I'm hoping Jones is just a sore one that he couldn't play through in the moment, and Darwin is just a precaution because Klopp was starting to have an existential crisis when somebody went in on Bradley a few seconds after Jota was stretchered off the pitch. But unfortunately, the Jota one does look bad, and yeah, you hope for the best, of course. But I said when he went off actually that been in tremendous form, been really excellent for us, and it would be a huge loss for him to be out for an extended period. But when you're bringing on the league's best player to replace him, and then he reminds you just of just how he is pure world class, one of the greatest this league has seen in the space of about 20-30 minutes, and could have had another, to be honest. Just reminds you of what a huge boost that is on the other side of things, to have him back, have him fit and firing. I'm choosing to lean into that positive. And then also I thought Endo performed really well on the day. I'm sure we'll talk about him. But another one of the subs who came on for Jones, I was a bit concerned with Grav coming on. just because of all the signings we've made, he's the one who's taken the longest to settle. But I thought that was one of the more encouraging performances we've seen from him. Big shoes to fill in terms of what Jones provides us with, and I thought Grav actually ends up there getting the hugs from Jurgen, big smile. Seemed like he'd proved a point there, so hopefully he can do that again and again. So yeah, top of the league, nice view from here. You can see the anxieties of the others. You do expect them to win, but you never know. Now we're in the position where we can just sit and watch.
I'm glad you went there with the Gravenberch thing early on, because we're in an unfortunate position here quite often that we get labelled as being pro or anti certain players because we're reacting to the game as it happened, as opposed to the game through the lens or framework that you want to view it, having had a bit of time to go away and sort of organise your prejudices, positivities, the negative views, etc. And Gravenberch's come in for a lot of stick, and deservedly so, for ineffective performances, but delighted to see something approximating what we would hope to be seeing from him in a difficult situation, for sure. And yet the other great joy from a very personal point of view here, of course, for us raw reprobates, is that we will be finished our work very soon, and the rest of the weekend is just absolute gravy. So I look forward to that very much so. And Harry, let me stay with you to talk about how we went in terms of the Liverpool lineup, and I'll go and speak to Dave briefly about Brentford after getting a quick word from you on them as well. But we'll just take the Liverpool thing. It doesn't require a huge amount of discussion, I don't think, but you may disagree. He went with Kelleher because he had no choice. Conor Bradley came in. I think most people expected to see Joe Gomez there, if for no other reason than the difficulties that Conor's had to face. But, it was always going to be a call of what was best for him, I think. It is tough on Joe to be out of the team, though. And I think it was during one of the Daily Reds, Dave say, look, if Robbo's fit, he's going to play, whether we agree with that or not, ahead of Joe Gomez. And that's exactly what happened. If I'm Joe and I'm sitting on the bench, I'm a little bit pissed, I'll be honest with you, on the back of what he's done for us in difficult times. But anyway, it was Conor. Great to see him back. All I wanted from him was that he would have a good, solid performance so he could feel that confidence. He went on and absolutely put that in. The rest of the team, fairly straightforward, I would have thought, in terms of selection. He went with Ibu and Virgil, obviously. It was Mac, Endo and Curtis, which I think all of us think is currently the best trio available to us. Jota, Nunez and Diaz, which again, I think is probably what all of us think is the best trio available if you're not going to immediately start Mo Salah back into the action. Our bench looked lovely and solid on the back of some returning players and on the back of some of those decisions I've just mentioned. Joe Gomez is there, as is Mo Salah. We've just mentioned both of those. Gakpo is there, and Elliott is there, and Tsimikas is there, Gravenberch is there, Kwanzaa is there, and as is McConnell. And, as you're watching the game, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, if these injuries keep continuing, you might see McConnell start. And I actually thought, the way Jurgen's going, you might give that kid a go ahead of someone like Gravenberch in a game if we were down to the bare bones. So again, a very solid bench when even the kid that you're looking at, the nominal kid on it, is a fella who has acquitted himself well. That's encouraging, at least, despite the fact that we've lost two people from that overall rotation, Harry.
Yeah, we've seen, of course, a number of young players come in and, acquit themselves really, really well. Bradley's one of those. I think you see, I can't remember anything underwhelming about any aspect of his performances since he's come in. Technically, looks like a real footballing talent. Mentality's there. You can see the tenacity in his game as well. Has the creativity, has the attacking instincts as well. Perhaps not, of course, the footballing talent that we know Trent is, but I do feel secure with him in the team as well. I think he's a solid defender, it looks like, and knows when to be composed in difficult circumstances, when to keep it simple, and is a tidy passer, which is not stuff you always associate with young players thrust into the Premier League. So was happy to see him there. If he was comfortable with doing that, it was always going to be his decision, like you said, given what he's been through with the loss of his father. But Robbo, Van Dijk, Konate seemed okay to me. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Gomez get plenty of games still. I don't expect Bradley to be week in, week out here from now on, actually. But I think you need to be cautious with him, and perhaps Gomez makes more sense for some of the bigger clashes. Perhaps City would be interesting to see what happens there. But if he keeps impressing, who knows? And Mac, Endo, Jones, I think you've proven it there that is the best three that we had in terms of how they complement each other at the moment. Those of whom were fit. Just a point on Klopp. He said mixed emotions because we lost players and we don't know how serious it is. It doesn't look great for either of them, Jota and Jones. Klopp says he's not sure. And Núñez looks like it could potentially be just a precautionary thing. So that's one silver lining. But yeah, the midfielders picked themselves given who was available. But as we see people like Gravenberch come on and put in a performance like that, and put in a performance closer to the standard that we expect of a midfielder that's going to be starting for Liverpool. Hopefully that means that three, which is not going to be the three, if we believe this Jones injury is a bit more serious, and we hope that it's not the big drop off that we've seen at points this season. And the front three, with being cautious with Salah, I was for that, to be honest. Given the recent setbacks we've seen from players who may or may not have been rushed back a little bit prematurely from injury layoffs, that guy is the one you don't want to be taking any risks with at all, because the longer you can keep him on the pitch, the better chance he's got of winning you every game that he plays in. So yeah, Jota has been outstanding this season. We'll come on to talk about his performance before he sadly was taken off. And Núñez and Diaz, I think you're seeing Diaz climb back from where he was at one stage this season to having more impact on games, if not perhaps still at his best. But I don't think there's many surprises there, Trev. And the strength of the bench, I think, just points to you as well, that even with the players we've lost through injury, the work we did to sort of bolster the squad and some of the emergences of the young players like Quansah as well, means that we don't look too thin.
Yeah, it is heartening in a time when you feel like you should be shouting at the sky about our misfortune, and maybe that will pan out to be the case, but also maybe there's just enough there to keep us going through this difficult period while we await the return of Trent and Dom and Ali. Players that I don't think either of our title rivals could lose the equivalent of and not be impacted. So look, it's an interesting one. And just quickly on Brentford before I go to Dave to talk about them, in your rivalry recon during the week, was there that element of sort of giddy excitement about playing Liverpool, against whom they have an excellent record, especially at their place? And did you see any shockers in that particular lineup? Obviously, they have some issues with people out and injured and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, no, I think the lineup was pretty much what I was expecting, given some of the absences that they've got. That's really the team they've been going with largely, especially since Tony's return as well, moving back to that 3-5-2. I think he's interesting character that we spoke about on the pod quite a lot, in terms of the talent is clear to see, the footballing arrogance, you never mind that, but we spoke a little bit about some of the slightly disrespectful comments from him around, I mean, just almost playing coy about the fact that he's quite clearly deciding not to sign a new contract because he wants to move probably at the end of the season, but yet trying to suggest that the manager was the one who was intimating that he didn't want him, and so on and so forth. All these interviews you've seen from him, I think it's left a bit of a bad taste in the mouths of Brentford fans who, from their perspective, they've been without him for 6 months because of his own actions, and so for him to come back and do that a little bit, I think has wound them up somewhat. But we know that his quality is what it is. The pod was fairly downbeat. It's been a tough season for them with the number of injuries that they've had. They've not been the Brentford that we've seen previously. Conceded the first goal lots and lots, and also not come back after they've conceded the first goal, and conceded goals late as well. So lots of bad stats that you don't want to be associated with you that weren't associated with Brentford before this season. So I think it was a little bit downbeat, and then I think actually throughout the pod he persuaded himself, my guess, that maybe it would be a difficult afternoon for Liverpool in the end. I think by the end they just didn't have enough to sustain the intensity, whilst I thought, in points, some of the counters were quite neat and tidy. So, no real surprises from them, given some of the absences they're dealing with as well.
Yeah, which we will absolutely take, and any misfortune suffered by other teams is readily welcomed by me, I have to say. And it's interesting, Dave, to hear Harry talk about Ivan Toney. I've just checked his age there. He's going to turn 28 in a few weeks' time. That means that if he wants to fucking agitate for any sort of a move at all, I fully back the lad in terms of it's a very short career. He does end up perhaps then coming off as not a great fella. But, at that stage, really, do you give a shit like how you come off when you've got like a very finite period of time left to play at the top level? So just to talk to you briefly about Brentford and how they went, we'll just mention their lineup and you can take it wherever you want after that. Their 11 that started was Flecken, Collins, Ayer, me, Roerslev, Jensen, Norgard, Janelt, Reguilon, Toney and Mopé. Some very, very good footballers there. And on the bench, they had Goddardson and Yeke who came on. Lewis Potter came on. Damsgaard came on. They had Yarmulke and Baptiste on there as well as Strakosha. And Vissa, who also came on. So there's quite a few decent footballers knocking in around that club, especially when you factor in the people who are not available for them today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're missing both starting wing-backs, Enrico Henry and Aaron Hickey. They're missing Kevin Schade, who'd be an option for them in attack. They're missing Brian Mbomo, who would be the first-choice partner for Ivan Toney. So, 3 starters and a couple of other squad players. Ethan Pinnock not there today either. So they are missing some players, but it's still a good team. Now, personally, looking at their back 3, I don't really understand the logic in playing Nathan Collins on the right of the 3 and Ayer in the middle. I think you'd be much better off if you swap the 2 of them. But all 3 of those centre-backs are pretty decent. The keeper is decent. Reguilon, we know, is a good player. Roerslev, I'm not a fan of, but I do really like that midfield 3. Jensen, Norgard and Janelt. It reminds me a lot of our old midfield 3 in how they play. Norgard is sort of that Fabinho type of sitting midfielder, shields the defence, breaks up play, does all the simple things really well and can play a bit. Janelt is sort of their version of Ginny, blocks off passing lanes, fills the gap, sits in next to Norgard, has a decent range of passing. He's a good player. And I really do like Jensen. I think he's technically a very good player. Didn't have much involvement today because we were able to get a strong foothold in the game, but takes a great set piece. He's a clever passer of the ball. He plays the sort of more attack-minded, right-sided role that we've always had as well. So, the midfield is good. It's balanced. Toney is outstanding. He is an outstanding player. And you're right. I mean, at 28, you can't blame the lad for wanting to go and do bigger things. I mean, you have to remember, he was 25 before he got to play in the Premier League. He moved to Newcastle at 19 from Northampton, had a bunch of loans. 2 never really gave him any kind of real opportunity. So he kind of lost 3 years of his career bouncing about on loans, went to Peterborough, had 2 great years there, joined Brentford. And it's been, other than obviously this season because of the ban, it's been incredibly positive for all parties, that move. Broke the championship record for goals to help them get promoted. And he's been tremendous since they came up. He's one of the few strikers that, can get double figures goals, double figures assists. He's a really good all-round player. I think a top club should move for him. If I was Spurs, I'd be trying to figure out, can I afford to get him in? Because I'm still missing Harry Kane. And while he's not Harry Kane, he's the best approximation that you're going to find at anything less than probably 70, 80 million. He's got 1 year left on his contract. There's little to no chance he's going to renew. So in all likelihood, he is leaving at the end of this year. and he's going to go and improve a team somewhere. Like he is the type that you could put into most teams in the Premier League, and he would improve them. I think he'd improve Arsenal. I think he'd improve Spurs. I think he'd improve Villa.
And us.
I mean, you stuck him in as the 9 and shifted Darwin to the left.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a really good fit. You know, and you look down to the league. Chelsea need a striker. He'd fit well there. Obviously, he's out of West Ham's price range, but he'd fit well there. He'd improve United, even with the upturn in form of Højlund. Ivan Toney's just a better player right now, and he'd be more suited to playing with Rashford and Garnacho. But like the point is, Brentford have in their ranks a player who all of the top clubs, bar probably City, are casting an eye on and thinking, I wonder, could we swing that deal at a price point that's going to be clever for us because of his age? Like, there's no resale value in buying Ivan Toney, but if you're on the brink of doing something, like if you feel like you're one player away from winning the title or being a team that could win cups like Spurs or Villa, then he would make a lot of sense for you. I like this team, I do, and I like Thomas Frank. I don't like Thomas Frank as a potential manager for us. I know his name has been floated. I think he'd be on your long list of guys you'd give some consideration to because he's done a tremendous job there. And like, they are very well set up. They're very well drilled. They're organised. They all know their roles individually and collectively. Those players have all bought in entirely to what Thomas Frank is selling them. He clearly is a good man manager. He's clearly got a good tactical head in his shoulders. Is, like I said, he preps really well for games. He knows where certain weak points in teams are, and oftentimes it's just a lack of individual quality that holds Brentford back. But I do like them. I like how they run. Now, me and Carl went over it yesterday. I think a lot of their transfer business since they came up into the division has been spotty. You look at, like, Toney was there in the Championship. The midfield was all there in the Championship. Mopey was with them in the Championship. They have him back on loan. Ben Mee was a free. Ayer and Collins have been decent, but Ayer's had a lot of injuries. Most of their best players, like Rico Henry, was there in the Championship. Since they've come up, it just feels like their business has been hit and miss. Like, Damsgaard hasn't hit. Lewis Potter hasn't hit. You know, like, that's a lot of money spent for a club like Brentford on players that really haven't made the desired impact. Even Mbomo was there in the Championship as well, you know. So it's been a bit spotty, and I think it's credit to this manager that he's been able to hold them together and keep them out of relegation battles. I know, you know, this season they're not having the best of years, but they're still 6 points clear of the EV with the same number of games played now.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
That's a fair point. And to put something just to swing it back, a Liverpool word a little bit, I did see what I took to be a pretty much blanket dismissal of the concept of this guy as a potential Liverpool manager in the upcoming circus that will be how we go about replacing Jurgen. I pretty much I guessed from your tweet that it was like, that'll be a hard no.
Yeah, I mean, like, you'd be putting together a long list, you know, of 25 names, and you'd give them all due consideration. It's just that some, like, say, Ruben Amorim or Zinedine Zidane or Xabi Alonso or my best friend and yours, Diego Simeone, like, they would be worth a lot more consideration than Thomas Frank, but you still would give Frank a look. My feeling with Thomas Frank, though, is the move for him if he wants to leave Brentford is more like a West Ham, like go up one level as opposed to trying to go up 3 levels. Because it's a significant jump from a club like Brentford, with due respect, who finished 9th last year, and that was massively outperforming expectations, to a club like Liverpool where the goal every single year has to be silverware. So if Thomas Frank is to leave Brentford, and I do believe he's worthy of a bigger stage, I think West Ham would be the right job for him. Or if they ever got their shit together, a club like Everton, who are a big club with a big fan base and, moving into a new stadium that'll have good revenue streams, that type of job would suit him. Or even Villa, assuming they don't make the next leap. Those type of jobs, I think, would be more suited to him than jumping to Liverpool. But you have to give huge credit for the work that he's done at Brentford. I mean, they were sort of an afterthought. Nobody ever looked at Brentford in 2018 and thought, oh yeah, like they're going to be in the Premier League and they're going to be a formidable outfit in a couple of years. They were just sort of a team that had drifted between the divisions. They were a little bit interesting because they had the Matthew Benham ownership. They were going the data-driven route in terms of recruitment. They were doing strange things like binning off the B team or like an academy and not bothering developing their own players, but looking to bring in value from elsewhere. But you never looked at them and thought, yeah, this is a team that's going to be in the Premier League in a couple of years. And he got them there. And not only that, he's kept them there very comfortably, in truth. Like the first year, they had a bit of a sketchy sort of 3-month run after a good start. But once they settled in and found themselves and found an identity in the league, they stayed up quite comfortably. Last year, they were great. And this year, even with all the injuries and the Toney suspension and all of that, and transfers not clicking the way they'd hoped, they're still going to stay up comfortably.
Yeah.
And for any club to come up and survive 3 years in this division, which is a killer, like this is a killer of a division for newly promoted teams. You don't see many come up and sit comfortably for 3 years unless they've been up and gone down and are coming back up with a Premier League ready team and Premier League resources already in place. You just don't see it. And I think massive credit has to go to him because he's the one kind of driving the train on this.
Absolutely. The return of Ref Watch is must called for today. I want you to come on an imaginary journey with me here now, listeners. I want you to picture 38-year-old Michael Oliver. You see him there? He's like the absolutely stereotypical cop recruit. That's what he looks like. He's standing there. He's got his little knee-length shorts on, and he's got something protruding from the back pocket of the shorts. Oh, it's his wallet. He's taking his wallet out now. As he looks at his wallet, there's a shiny circle through the leather because inside there, you see, is Old Faithful. That's the condom that he's had since 2005. But it doesn't matter because he's going on his hollybobs. That's what he calls them, you see, hollybobs. And he's going on his hollybobs to, as Dave Hendrick told me, his ma's, because that's his favourite place to go for holidays. The best part about holidays in his ma's is the food. She does a lovely sandwich, which Michael eats with a knife and fork. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Oliver. What a sort. This is the guy who we were told for years was the heir apparent. He was going to be just the next big thing. He was, see that baldy lad, put him in the halfpenny place, that foreign lad. Michael Oliver's the up and comer. Is it just me, Harry, or did he make so many dubious calls today? And actually, some of them for Liverpool. Let's be honest, at least one or two. Is there any good referee? How does someone go from being so highly vaunted to being so run of the mill and just another one in a long list of subpar professionals?
Yeah, I don't know about his fall off, but in terms of what I saw today, we talk at times about some of the weird stuff that creeps into refereeing, despite I guess them being reminded about it every single season. Like, for example, this like that weird 5 to 6 minute period at the start of games where no player can get sent off for any bad tackle because, you're just seeing how the game starts to develop. It'd be wrong to do that. But even though it's completely fine, if somebody does a tackle worthy of a red card in the first 5 minutes, they should be sent off. You rarely see that. You see people refereeing context sometimes as well in how they referee games rather than actually just judging the incidents on what they are, what they've been able to see. And I thought today was a good example of, you think about how certain teams want to play, especially how an injury hit Brentford want to play in this kind of game, disrupted game, lots of different breaks here and there, free kicks, set pieces where they can get a chance, 50-50s, they want them to go their way, get these free kicks they can use to cause problems. And I thought in terms of what they would have wanted, yes, there were a few odd ones, and as Dave mentions, perhaps we got lucky with the avoiding a penalty at one stage, but I thought the vast majority there is a case of a referee giving all of these decisions when it came to 50-50 challenges their way, and actually enabling them to play the sort of game they probably wanted to be able to play, and disrupting the kind of game Liverpool wanted to play. So the fact that Liverpool run out the 4-1 winners could have been more, I think just goes to show sort of the quality of the performance. But I think Dave's got the stats on the number of fouls that we actually conceded, apparently, despite having huge chunks of the ball.
Yeah, we had 63% of the ball and somehow committed 18 fouls.
Right.
They had 37% of the ball and only conceded 4 fouls. And yet we're able to boot our players up in the air at regular intervals. Now, my good friend Stu tells me that Michael Oliver doesn't like ketchup. He believes it's too spicy.
I see.
Rory Greenfield is of the opinion that Michael Oliver doesn't have a middle name because middle names are exotic, and his parents wouldn't be into that type of stuff. Now, Trev, you'll know that in this country that we live in, there is a collective, a parcel of people from a certain part of the country that rock around with 2 surnames. They don't have a first name. Their first name is something like Campbell. They have 2 surnames, and that's just how they move. Well, Michael Oliver's parents believe that surnames are for peasants, which is why his name is Michael Oliver. Michael Oliver's favourite rock band is Justin Bieber, and he is unquestionably a terrible set of lads.
It's remarkable, and I'm sorry, but every one of those little digs has been well and truly earned. It's not just on the back of today.
No, it's years of this.
It's years of this nonsense, especially when we are told repeatedly about what a wonderful referee he is. And that's the only thing. That's what sticks in my craw more than anything else. If he was just one of the same potato-faced pudgy yokes that plod around in 2 tight black tops in the Premier League, embarrassing themselves. And if that's body shaming, I don't give a shit. You're supposed to be a professional, keeping up with professionals. If he was one of those, fine. But we're told he's not one of those, you see. He is an absolute Dion of the profession, except he ain't. And it's demoralizing that we have a situation. Wasn't that the last time out we had a lad who had refereed his first ever Liverpool game, and it was comparatively uninteresting, and we made comparatively small mention of him. And that's surely what a referee situation should be, not the centre of attention. But as we go through the details of the match, we are going to hear more and more about Mr. Mike Oliver, because he's front and centre with a lot of the stuff. And Dave, let's start you and I with the opening part of the game, which this may well seem a big chunk to take, and we'll see if we need to interrupt it. But I was kind of half thinking we might go up as far as the goal, because there's so many other things we wanted to talk about apart from the match details. In the first half, as you mentioned, we had to endure a little bit of them with their tails up and being very front foot. On 4 minutes, there was a through ball that split us wide open and a shot dragged badly across the face of goal. Now, unfortunately for me, my doorbell rang just as that was happening, so I saw one replay of it. I couldn't even make out who that was. Who had that shot? Do you remember? Does either of you guys remember who had that early shot for them?
Ivan Toney? The one that dragged across the front of goal?
Yeah, on the 4th minute. Yeah, was that Tony? Okay,
I think it was Tony.
There was a decent move by them on 5 minutes, which needed a Virgil van Dijk intervention and clearance. On 6 minutes, we have our first moment where Darwin places a ball across the face of goal from the right-hand side to no avail. Nobody's there. A great drive and dribble by Conor Bradley on 9 minutes. Fantastic stuff by the kid. And a really clever improvised shot with the outside of his foot at full pace was saved at full stretch by their keeper. And Jota's follow-up was saved too, but I think a flag had gone up against Jota anyway, so I don't think his shot would have counted. Darwin, I thought, looked so bright in these opening minutes and continued to do so, literally buzzing around the place everywhere, looking for the ball, our out ball at all times. And that thing that we spoke about on the last podcast, Dave, you and I, about how he retains possession so well for us. It's a delight to have this kid in the team. And on 12 minutes, Jota actually heads a robo-cross over the top. And in doing so, takes it off Ibu Konate's head, who's waiting to bury it, theoretically. And then we had, and maybe this is where we'll pause, Dave, the mutual holding. This new little bit of language that we were told from the VAR boys as Jota is wrestled in the box. Now, we saw last week, maybe even last game, my memory for these things is not super. We saw Diogo Jota be very clever and hook an arm and a leg around someone and drag him to the ground in a way that made it look as if he was being fouled, and it would have fooled some people, and it certainly would have fooled the linesman from the wrong side and perhaps a referee from the wrong angle. And who knows what happens then with VAR, because they're so fucking mental. They may give it or they may not give it. This, again, was there was a shit amount of replays on this, so I can't tell you with any great confidence my opinion on it. I'm hoping you will have some sort of a definitive take. Talk to us about VAR and mutual holding.
Yeah, the mutual holding is quite an interesting little rule that doesn't really seem to have any defined order. In this situation here, it looks to me like Diogo Jota is being molested and is trying to push his way clear. And very clearly, he's not the aggressor in this situation. We see it again a couple of minutes later where he's doing everything he can to stay away from the same defender who is once again attempting to wrestle him to the ground. And in the second situation, Jota manages to sort of free himself. The defender flings himself to the ground and got a free kick. This first one, though, like, it's always difficult with these because I thought it looked like a penalty. That was my view of it when I saw it. I thought it was a penalty. I thought very clearly Jota was trying to push himself away and get a little bit of space, because why wouldn't he want a little bit of space in the air in the 6-yard box when we have a set piece? So for me, that one looked a foul. But I suppose if you're a Brentford fan, you're probably looking at it in the other way and thinking, well, Jota's doing as much pushing and pulling as the defender is. But again, Jota is the attacking player here. He wants to score the goal. He doesn't want to take a player out of the game. He wants to be free. I thought it was a strange one. But again, the rule is so ambiguous. It doesn't really give us any clarity on what constitutes a foul and what doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And Harry, I want to give you a chance to come in on this concept as well, because I think you mentioned earlier on that you thought there was a penalty that should have been given for Liverpool. I'm wondering if this is it. And what do you make of the very romantic sounding handle of mutual holding?
Yeah, it's a hug, isn't it? That's generally a mutual embrace. I don't know what necessarily sort of what the point is of that as a rule. It does seem incredibly subjective, and we're trying to take as much of the subjective out of the game as possible when it comes to making decisions like penalties and things like that. It just seems like another vague term that can be used to provide a little bit more flexibility to referees when making decisions, because it gives them, the room to not make a decision. So I think that's
If I can just briefly interject, just as an update from Ian Doyle, okay. Curtis Jones boarded the Liverpool coach on crutches with his left foot in a protective boot. That doesn't sound great. Diogo Jota also on crutches with his left knee in a brace. Doesn't sound great. But Darwin Núñez walked through unaided and didn't appear to be limping, so that is positive. So hopefully Darwin is okay, but doesn't sound great on the other two.
Yikes. No, it doesn't sound great on the other two. You know what? I've been distracted by something myself here, and I just want to bring it up with both of you before we barge on with details of the match. There was a huge amount of talk on TNT, who were previously BT Sport, or at least that's how it appears to me. It's mostly the same people involved. And they were talking incessantly before the game, at halftime, and after the game about how Klopp says he doesn't like these half-12 kickoffs, but he's not doing too badly in them, lol. Maybe he should thank us, lol. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is this tone about? And does anyone have a brain, like one single brain cell there amongst all of you imbeciles? Do they not understand the point that Klopp has made? It's not about a half-12 kickoff. It's about a half-12 kickoff in context of other fixtures. It's just such a daft, stupid way to behave. And it's so deliberately, Harry, deliberately disingenuous in a way that, do you know what's, I think, most dispiriting about it for me is that there are so many mouth breathers out there who'll just go, oh, yeah, good point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think unfortunately you only have to look at sort of the kind of like football content that gets loads of engagement online, right? And there's football dailies and variations of that where it's people on panels with a couple other people on panels saying the daftest stuff they can think of, or I think I occasionally see a clip of someone saying like, "Oh, I wouldn't have Mo Salah in my fan," that kind of stuff. Where it's like, "Oh, okay, we're just going to say the most stupid thing we can because it will get lots of people chortling and go, yeah, give it to them," which is quite a strange thing to see, especially when you're thinking about actual professional coverage of a game by a broadcaster. I think we've been used to it for a while. I think obviously with BT Sports beforehand. I don't think TNT is good coverage at the moment either. Unfortunately, I think the level of analysis isn't great. Yes, you can have a little bit of banter here and there with the game, but it's deliberately trying to be antagonistic about it. They're scratching their heads as well about lots of injuries this season, Trev. What could it be? There are plenty of reasons like why maybe some of these injuries are happening to players who are playing more than ever with games closely packed together. I'm not saying it's all down to early kickoffs, but it doesn't help certainly. And it's just unfortunately it does seem to be the way in which it's going, where there's lots and lots of winking and antagonistic comments, but actually very little in the way of stepping back for a little bit and going, maybe he has a point here, because we know, of course, there's a vested interest in that timing being what it is. So, I mean, Joe Cole as the pundit that they were going to for an extra bit of analysis from the touchline, I think really set the tone for me.
Yeah, well, if Joe Cole's setting any tones, you've got your appointments completely wrong. That's just a simple fact of life. The guy is a sort of sentient teabag, if we're being perfectly honest. I've no idea how fellas like that get a job. I just don't. But anyway, here we are, and the slow decline into idiocracy in general, and we are back in the match after some romantic mutual holding from VAR. We have two more opportunities, and this is kind of the period of the game where it could have threatened to slightly get away from us. On 14 minutes, Mopé plays a through ball to Tony. He pulls his shot across the face of goal from left to right. And then on 19 minutes, another opportunity arises for Tony, where he's in on goal versus Ibu Konate. And Konate does enough to hold off the big man and limit the power of his shot, I guess. His shot from right to left, back across goal, is saved by Quiving quite comfortably. On 20 minutes, Jota has a very vicious half volley tipped over. Not sure it was going to go in or hit the bar, but it was about that height. A great run by that kid again on 27 minutes. And as he's running through on goal, the ball kind of breaks for Luis Diaz, who really should, I think, pull the trigger, if I'm being perfectly honest. Norgard has an effort for them on 29 minutes after a decent move, and he pulls his shot wide as well. It seemed to be something they were afflicted with today. And on the 33-minute mark, we bring on Gravenberch for Curtis, who goes down injured. Within 2 minutes of that, we are a goal up. And that's where I'm going to go to you, Dave, just to talk about the goal and that little period where we had to sort of dig in. Then there was the injury to Curtis. Gravenberch comes on, and within 2 minutes, it is Darwin who's put us one up. Basically, if we're being perfectly honest, Virgil just launches the ball forward. It bounces, he hits it. Jota does remarkably here. And all through this opening period, his ball winning was superb. In recent games, his ball winning is superb. He's constantly buzzing around like a kind of a Ian Rush on steroids at times. He's absolutely brilliant at this. At that part of the game, but this in particular, there was a lot of oohing and eyeing from the pundits on TNT about it, especially Big Crouchy in terms of the header. But listen, this is absolutely fantastic. He's got to keep his back kind of half turned to the ball and watch the ball at the same time and hold the defender off, and still wins the header, gets a decisive touch of the ball with an unusual sort of an angle back into the path of the onrushing Darwin Núñez. All of us, Dave, at this point are thinking, Darwin has time, it seems. And isn't that the thing? If Darwin has time, this probably won't end well. My God, it ends so well. The keeper advances and he lofts the ball over him. It's absolutely fucking glorious, if we're being perfectly honest, in terms of the execution of it. The assist, I think, is in the world-class category because it's entirely deliberate. And we find ourselves one up, whether it's deserved or not. You can comment on.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin De Vries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, like you said, we'd sort of been not hanging on, but we'd had to absorb some pressure. We'd had to ride our luck a little bit with some questionable finishing from some of the Brentford lads. But this is, I mean, like you said, this is outrageous from Jota to keep track of that ball for that long in the air while maintaining your pace to get ahead of that defender. And then it's a lovely cushioned, directed header into the path of Darwin. And it's absolutely outrageous from Núñez. Like, that is ridiculous. I don't even know where that comes into your mind, that what you're going to do from there is loft the keeper, because it's not like there's a huge amount of distance between you and the keeper. And it's not like you're 25 yards out and the keeper stood in the penalty spot. He's quite close in. That technique is sensational. Most people are trying to knock it past him into one of the corners. And Darwin does the unexpected, which is when Darwin is at his best. It's brilliant. And it's a beautiful agricultural goal as well, which I'm a big fan of. And we got 2 of them. We got 3 agricultural goals really in this game.
Well, in terms of the beginning of it, is that what you mean? Like with the big punt forward?
Well, this one's a big punt forward. The Salah goal is a big punt forward from Queeveen. And the 4th goal is a kind of hooked punt forward from Joe Gomez that Nathan Collins makes a mess of. And the ball works to Queeveen, or to Cody, and he scores. So, like, 3 lovely Tony Pulis-esque goals, giving Brentford, to be fair, a taste of their own medicine, because it's been those type of goals that they've scored against us in the last couple of years. But this finish is incredible. This is not one that you hang in a museum. This is one that you build a fucking museum, an art gallery, a library, and all other manner of cultural outlets for. And you build it around this. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
First of all, to even think about it. Like, what was mad was Darwin was tweeting an hour before the game. Darwin sent the tweet to Alexis McAllister an hour before the game. Our fans are in meltdown. He's not focused on the game. Lads, it's Darwin Núñez. Let the boy be. That finish is... It's utterly world class. If anyone else did that, we would be seeing it on an endless loop for years to come. Like, if that's Cristiano or imagine if Eden Hazard scored that goal, you'd never hear the end of it. If Martinelli or Saka scored that goal, you'd never hear the end of it. Darwin does it, and we all kind of just go, yeah, fair enough. What else would you expect?
What else would you expect?
Sensation.
Yeah, well, I look forward to visiting the Darwin Núñez wing of the said artistic institute, and maybe having a Darwin Núñez sandwich in the cafeteria area beforehand, because I agree with you entirely. It's worthy of great adulation. Like I say, so sad when you think about what happens with Jota later on, because within a minute of that, within about 6 or 7 minutes of that, he's gone off injured. We bring on Mo on 43 minutes, and everybody's kind of wincing, thinking, shit, there was a reason why Mo didn't start. Is this going to be too much? Do we really need Mo taking the field in this situation? But clearly our man, Diogo, is in a bad way as he goes off in the stretcher, and that's 43 minutes. 44. Immediately after that, Reguilon nearly kills Conor Bradley's ankle, and Klopp, like you said, Harry, is absolutely beside himself. I've never seen such a pained, angst-ridden expression on anyone's face, and my God, you can relate to it. On 45 minutes, Mo plays in Darwin, and Luis Diaz can't get to Darwin's flick. 8 minutes were added for the two injuries, and there is an attempt by us on 47 where Luis Diaz launches a break. His ball in takes a deflection off Darwin, which actually stops Mo Salah from taking the ball in his stride as he thinks it's coming to him, and it appears to be a good opportunity wasted. It's only when you see the deflection. I didn't notice the deflection on the initial one. I just thought, how come he hasn't got his feet right on that? But there was a deflection which sort of altered the flight of the ball on its way to him. But Mo was pretty much within a couple of minutes of being on the field, front and centre, and that was a little bit of a sign of what was to come. Harry, just if we stop here at halftime for a sec, I want you to pick out maybe one person you want to talk about, because there are lots of candidates that we could talk about here. We could talk about another comparatively solid showing from Kelleher, but perhaps that will be more appropriate later on when he makes a couple of good saves. We could talk about either of our two lads who went off injured, both of whom had very bright performances, particularly Jota. We could talk about Darwin Núñez. I don't know if you want to talk about Andy Robertson and whether or not you thought that this now makes perfect sense that Andy Robertson is an automatic starter when Joe Gomez has been so good. I don't know if you want to go positive, negative, but I want to give you a chance to pick something out of that first half that you want to talk about.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I'll definitely want to mention Endo in the second half, so I'll wait till then. But I think given we don't see any more of him after half time, two of them obviously, Jota, Núñez. Actually, it's in three really, but with Jones. But I think I'll focus on Darwin just because I thought, similar to you, really, really bright. We know about what he brings to the game from a physical perspective, and always a willing runner. But we've seen his game get more and more rounded as the season's gone on. And you hear the stat after that ball goes into the back of the net. Was it 13 goals now, 11 assists from this huge flop, clearly. And I think that you're really seeing him finding his feet and dovetailing well with whoever's up there with him. To be honest, I think you can see the. I know a lot was made of the chaos agent stuff that I used to talk about as well at the start of his time at the club, but it's still valid in terms of sort of the effect he has on defenders, even when perhaps he doesn't have the ball. He's a real menace. Yes, the finish was gorgeous. That's exactly what you want to see when he has the time and space to be 1v1 with the goalkeeper. Calm, composed, a little bit of the audacious in there as well, just to make just to give his own personal flair to it as well. But I thought some of the combinations with others in the front three as well, and actually McAllister when he got up there to support were really good. He was unlucky actually with a couple that didn't come off, with a couple back heels and flicks here and there, and just generally thought he was really bright. And I saw somebody, I think it was Rupert Fryer actually on Twitter, comparing him to somebody who I've had fun comparing him to, even though he's a different player in many ways, but comparing his start certainly to this player, just because it seems to wind up Chelsea fans, and that's again it's another fun thing to do when you've got spare time. And it was comparing him to Drogba in terms of, you remember Drogba's start to life in the Premier League, very different player, of course, much later in his career when he obviously finally made that jump. But I remember a time when Drogba was a figure of fun. People were mocking him a little bit for some of the finishing, some of the rawness to his game, and we know what he became. But actually, you look at the stats of what Drogba did in the Premier League, and there are a couple seasons in there that really, really very high quality. And we know from first-hand experience with Carragher as well how hard Liverpool found it to deal with him. And I'm not comparing the players too much, but the trajectory is one that I've been thinking of for a while, in terms of a player coming in, being derided by a lot of different fan bases, but there being just too much talent there to not overcome some of those initial struggles or initial sort of bumpinesses when it came to sort of adapting to the Premier League. So hopefully it's a similar trajectory, if not a higher ceiling for Darwin. But I just thought another really encouraging performance, and I hope he's fine. I hope he's tweeting in a matter of minutes, Trev. Follow me.
Exactly. I must say I didn't have you down as a little devilish internet troll, but I'm enjoying this concept of you winding up Chelsea fans on the sly in your leisure time. Dave, let's you and I look at the kind of first chunk of the second half, which will actually include 2 goals. Quite a bit goes on. We see that substitution of Cody Gakpo for Darwin Núñez, who Harry has spoken so eloquently about there now, which we have all got our fingers crossed about the whole story about it being a precautionary thing, and the good news that we've heard about him walking to the bus and so on. But we begin with a really great break by the Reds, movement down the left-hand side. Luis Diaz plays in a pretty dodgy final ball to Cody Gakpo on 48 minutes. 49, Diaz is front and centre again. This time he beats 2 men and fires over the top as he cuts in. On 50, there's a ball over the top that gets Mo away. His finish 1v1 with the keeper is dinked inexplicably wide of the near post with his left foot. We've seen him do it a million times, where he just puts it back across to the far side of the goal. And it was such a uncharacteristically bad finish by Mo that it looked as if it had been saved, to be perfectly honest. Another great break on 52. This time Cody's ball into Mo Salah isn't too great either. We are very much front foot, and on 54 minutes McAllister has put us 2-0 up. There's an Endo header to Gravenberch, who plays it on to Mo, and his through ball to McAllister as he's running through centrally is a decent pass. Mac takes a good touch, and it's a nice poked home finish. Brilliant. Great goal. Exactly the kind of thing we want to see. Immediately after that, Mopay poked one over the top, but he was offside, so it doesn't count as a chance. On 59, Connor drifts in centrally, gets on the ball, advances, hits a great shot narrowly over the top for his second attempt of the game, putting him into kind of Trent Alexander-Arnold attempted chances territory for this match. On 62, they bring on a trio. Wissa, Lewis Potter and Onyeka come on for Rorslev, Norgard and Mopay, I think. And on 66 minutes, we play a brilliant one-touch move of stuff that ends with a Luis Diaz shot saved. We're absolutely on top, dominating the game at this stage. Endo picks up a yellow, as he tends to do, on 67 minutes, and possibly could have had another one later on. So maybe a rare moment of Michael Oliver indulgence we'll take. On 67, though, we go 3-0 up, and it is effectively game over at that point. This is where you were talking about earlier on, the agricultural route, Queeveen Kelleher with just a kick out up the field. I think it's Gravenberch who challenges for it, and it drops, and only Mo Salah is alive to the drop. He gets in on it. Their whole defence is asleep. He drives on centrally, and he goes he's moving drifting right to left, and holds off Ayer in a way that only probably Mo Salah can do. The guy's pound for pound the strongest. I used to think it was Sadio Mane, but it is Mo, the strongest forward I think that we've seen in the league for the last 5 or 10 years. He holds off the big Grok and shoots back across the goal from left to right into the bottom corner. It's a classic Mo Salah goal, but it takes a lot. There's not many humans who can do that, what he does there, to hold off the defender, to execute the finish, to drive at goal with the urgency he had, to have the awareness to hop on that ball in the first place. Hugely enjoyable, and very much our best part of the match, that part you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, at this point in the game, we are playing some fantastic football, and we're opening them up. We're creating really good chances. We're getting into dangerous positions. And Mo is really humming in this stage of the game as well. Like, this doesn't look like a fella that hasn't kicked a ball in a month, that hasn't played for us since New Year's Day. He is so good at this game. Like, it's almost unfair how much better than most of the players he is. The assist for Alexis is outrageous. And this goal is just, I mean, this is just him wanting it more than the Brentford defenders. And he does brilliantly. I mean, credit to Cody for the flick on. It's the perfect agricultural goal. It's a long, straight punt by Queeveen. Kelleher plays his size, or Gakpo plays his size, gets up, wins the flick on. And it's brilliant for Mo. But just to go back on the Alexis goal quickly, speaking of playing their size, massive credit here to Ryan Gravenberch, because when Endo heads it back into kind of the central area, Gravenberch does brilliantly, uses his size, his strength, seems to remember that he's 6'3". I wonder when he was going on, Klopp had kind of grabbed him and had a word with him, and it seemed quite serious. And I wonder, was it, just remember to use your size and strength here. You're bigger and stronger than most of these lads. Don't be pushed off the ball. And he does brilliantly on that goal. So we get 2 goals here in 13 minutes that effectively kills the game. And both of them are really well worked from our point of view. The technical side of the Alexis goal, but the simplicity of the Mo goal is just something I love. I'd love to see us go a bit more direct more often, because we have lads that can win flick-ons and we have pace to get in behind. And you see it all in those 2 goals.
You're very pleasing, actually, that you bring that up about, I give Gravenberch credit for the flick on for the 3rd goal, but that was Cody, you reckon. So an occasion where both of our Dutch lads, who we've been saying we'd like to see use their physicality more, actually did, and it led to a goal on both occasions. That's tremendous. Harry, you and I'll take the match to the end. Then I'll go to Dave for his final thoughts, and we'll finish with you. So from 71 minutes is where we're going to take it, Harry, now, and they start with a yellow for Onyeka on Endo. Now it's just before this, and we'll talk about this very briefly. I'll give you a chance to talk about this one little incident. There's a ball into the box, and to me it looks as if Robbo's pretty clumsy the way he comes through the back of Ivan Toney. It's kind of torso on torso stuff. But you wouldn't be surprised in the way that things have gone for us if that had been given as a penalty. And honestly, the way things worked out, they were back a goal. They were a goal back within a couple of minutes anyway. So, the penalty, whether it had been given or not, I don't know if it would have made a massive difference to the game, but it felt a little bit like Robbo might have got away with one there, and it broke. And then initially the commentators, Fletch and his little pal, were saying that they thought it was Endo who was picking up the yellow, but it was Onyeka for the foul on him. What did you make of that little incident anyway? And am I being overly kind in terms of saying that they might have had a shout there?
No, I think you've seen it given maybe on other days. I think the way in which it was waved away and reviewed and quickly dismissed. I'm happy to go with that. I'm happy to go with that when it benefits us, to be honest. But I think, it seemed a bit clumsy. It felt quite forceful. The striker's clearly looking for it, for sure. But I wouldn't have been surprised to see it go our way. So got a little bit lucky. But of course, as you mentioned, very soon after that, Tony does get the goal, and I felt gutted for Kelleher. I thought Kelleher had a good game, and depending on how serious this Alisson hamstring issue is, hopefully not too much, but or too bad, because of course we know the quality he has. But we've all spoken about Kelleher and the importance of rhythm for goalkeepers, just to get back to the level, that sort of top level that we saw that he had a couple seasons ago. And another cup final approaching. It could be another day for heroics in the Carabao from him. So I was gutted that he actually ended up losing that clean sheet. I thought he made an excellent save when it comes to the shot from Reguilon. Perhaps just needed to push it a little bit further wide to make it a bit tougher for Tony. But unfortunately, it falls straight to the last person you want it to fall to when it comes to Brentford. Very calm finish there from him. So at that stage, you're wondering, do they have it in them to actually produce a unsettling finish to the game? But I thought that you saw that what they've seen throughout the season, they're just not able to sustain it, and we had the quality to reassert ourselves in the game and finish it pretty soon after.
Well, you've done a good job of describing the goal as we conceded it there. Just before that, we saw them bring on Damsgaard on 73, and on 74 the goal, as you described it. I think it was Visse who broke down the right, forces the shot, the crossover, and Reguilon has a good dig. Now that save is instinctive stuff, and I think, to be honest, he'll have Ali in his ear and everybody else in his ear and telling them what a wonderful save that was.
Of course.
I think that will count as an overall positive, to be honest with you. I agree with you that the clean sheet would have been far preferable, but as you say, the big lad is looming there and he finishes it. It's a tap in effectively for a lad like him. But straight afterwards, we have another moment that we have to pause on here, because it's Luis Diaz. To me, looks like he's taken out completely by Collins. I would have said it was a penalty. There is undeniable contact on Luis Diaz. He doesn't touch the ball. Therefore, is that not a penalty? It's, I don't understand.
It's a clear penalty. It's a clear penalty.
How can it be anything else?
Now, I think the Robbo one on Tony is a blatant penalty as well, personally. I really do. Robbo just jumps into him, doesn't make any real attempt to get the ball, just kind of jumps into Tony. Tony doesn't help himself by flailing over so easily. Yeah. I thought that was a feature of Ivan Toney's game today. He did throw himself to the ground a lot. Like there was the Bradley one in the first half as well, where Bradley brushes the back of his calf with his studs. There's no force there, and yet Tony is down receiving treatment. And I do look forward to all the Arsenal and Chelsea nonsense putting up the still shot of that and going, how is this not a red card and all that garbage. But I did think the Robbo one was a penalty. But this is stonewall. This is so blatantly, obviously a penalty. But here's what's happened here. Michael Oliver will not overturn his decision. And I guarantee you the VAR is just going with the decision Michael Oliver has made on all of these decisions. If Michael Oliver had given penalties for either of those, there's no way they get overturned. When VAR first came out, there was reporting by a number of well-placed journalists that certain senior referees were basically going up to junior referees on VAR and having a go at them for making them look bad by overturning decisions. And I would bet that Michael Oliver was one of those who didn't like to be shown up, didn't like to have his decision questioned. And I would bet that if you look at the numbers across games that Michael Oliver referees, there's probably far less VAR interventions than there is for other referees. There'll be a couple like Oliver, some of the other senior referees. Paul Tierney will certainly be one. Madley, I'd say, will be another. Those lads will not want their authority questioned, their decision-making questioned. And I guarantee if that's any other referee, VAR tells them you need to go and have a look at this Diaz one. And the Robertson one as well. But the Diaz one is so blatant. Like, it's such a blatant foul. He takes his foot from under him.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
And
when you see, you can't review. Yeah, it's the quickness of the reviews where it becomes comic. That's where you realise that, that theory that you have there is right. See, you can't be ruining Michael Oliver's hollybobs with moments of introspection about whether he got a decision right or not. He's trying to eat a sandwich with a knife and fork and dream about using Old Faithful later on. You can't be telling me that we can be upsetting Michael in such a way. And Harry, I want you to have your take on this as well. I mean, like Dave's pretty adamant, and you and I are seeing the end of this game through here. So let's restart with yourself. And are you as adamant about it? Like the commentary team, Fletch and Pal were saying, not for me,
Yeah, weirdly, when I first saw it, maybe it was the commentary and the angle that I saw it, I was like, I did. It was either a penalty or it's a dive, and then I saw one angle and I thought, there was no contact, and then I tweeted that I understood the non-decision. Then immediately see a slow motion replay from the other angle where you can see the defender make contact. Diaz is at such a velocity that it's a clear, he's clearly impeding him. So I would have thought that's what VAR is for, or one of the examples of what VAR is for, going, missed it in the moment. That can happen to anybody. Have a little look at this. And, from this angle that we can see, because we've got all the cameras supposedly, there is clear contact. He's running full pelt at him. Yeah, he would go down. That's a penalty. I think the more I saw it, the more sort of resolute I got that it probably was a penalty. In the moment, I got carried away. Unfortunately, I got carried away with Jenness and Fletch and Cole and waving it away. So you could tell exposure for too long, Trevor, can be damaging.
It's debilitating for sure. And immediately afterwards, we bring on Joe Gomez and Harvey Elliott for Conor Bradley and Mac. They bring on Godos for Reguilon on 84 minutes. And I guarantee you he wishes he'd stayed where he was, because on 85, it's 4-1 to us. It's Cody Gakpo. This is calamity stuff from them, Harry. And the last one who's involved in the calamity is, I think, Godos, who's just come on on the field. It's a ball sort of eked across by Luis Diaz as we broke. There was an earlier mistake in the build-up for them as well, and he really it's going at snail's pace. He should intercept it. He doesn't. It comes to Cody, who manages to take it on and finishes quite emphatically. Now, we'll take it, Harry, but that's clown car stuff from them.
Absolutely, yeah. You'll take every single one of those, make it look more emphatic, enrage more people who are watching it on, like hoping for a slip up, of course. And God awesome. It's one of those situations where you think, in a crueler world, this is one of the situations where the manager gestures the substitution sign again and subs the sub for having brought him on, and the first thing he does is to make an error like that. And weirdly, I have to say, maybe it's just me being harsh, to be honest, but I was weirdly not super confident that Cody was going to slot that from there, and then when you watch the other angle and you go, oh no, he's absolutely never going to miss this. It's a clear sighting goal. He just calmly places it into the net, and then when they announced his goal record of he's into double digits now for the season, quietly got on up there as well. I think at times he's struggled this season, but he's still finding a way to contribute. And even if it is stat padding in garbage time, where a team's made a horrible mistake, we'll take every single one of them.
Yes, we will. And it's at that time then that you can start to hear the Jurgen song coming out. Liverpool top of the league coming out. We'll take that. 7 minutes are added. Harvey actually has a free kick that's well saved. Endo may have gotten away with a second yellow one on Yeka on 90 minutes. I think he did. On 91 minutes as well, a great save by Queven Kelleher from Tony, point blank, with a kind of shoulder header. It's another brilliant instinctive save by Queven, and we talked about how he might come back into the reckoning for a mention, so maybe you want to do it here or in your wrap up. 95, great run down the left and a pull back by Luis Diaz, but there was nobody there. He did great work, to be fair, just nobody there for him to pull it back to. And then on the 96th minute, right up to the death as usual, Liverpool were knocking on the door, and Virgil's heading a Robbo corner off the bar. So in terms of summing up that last chunk of the second half, and remember, we will be coming back to you to finish the show, your final thoughts. Anyone you want to pick out or anything you want to pick out?
Yeah, I thought again, just a strong finish to the game. Could have easily been a bigger scoreline with that Virgil header, a couple of chances that we had, and Endo walking away from a tackle where he could have got booked, sort of calmly, sort of readjusting the gum shield. I think it's sort of summed up some of his performance. I thought he was. I thought he was excellent in terms of doing the dirty work that you need at times, and being composed in the right moments, sort of recognizing when, not that we were up against it, but recognizing when you're losing players to injury, it can be unsettling. When the crowd gets up a little bit, understanding when to be a bit measured. But I also thought you could see him making some positive runs forward, carrying the ball, bringing others into play, not slowing it down too much either. I thought he kept the tempo quite nicely. I'm not sure how many interceptions he made on the day, but I'm sure it was pretty good. I think he finished the game at 87%. Well, passing accuracy is pretty good as well for him. He's come back from that tournament, looked a bit tired in the last game. I thought was understandable. So with all these players missing, I think it's we've discussed him this season. It's taken him time to find his feet, but I think he's a very useful cog in that midfield when we're dealing with these kind of games, and helped us see it out. So I thought he deserved special mention, as did McAllister. I thought grew into the game really well. Saw him more perhaps in some of his natural positions, more attacking minded at times with the goal and with a couple other runs as well. So him, Mac, and Grav, I'll probably leave for my wrap up, but a calm finish to the game. In the past could have been maybe an awkward finish with them grabbing that goal not too long before the end, but I thought we really showed our class and composure, keeping them at arm's length, knowing when to pass the ball around, and just great to hear that song being bellowed out by the travelling cop.
We'll take it for sure. It was a lovely clinical way to end the game, and not give them a sniff of any sort of hope whatsoever. And Dave, let's finish with your final thoughts on the match. Anyone you want to pick out, any ideas you want to pick out? We've gone through quite a lot, to be fair. I think there's nothing we left really, I think, on the table. But anyone you want to zone in on, or any idea you want to put forward, and do finish as usual with your plugs, please.
Couple of lads to highlight. I thought Queeving was excellent today. 2 incredible saves. The save just seconds before the Tony goal is outstanding, but the one later on from header,
Tony's shoulder,
that is an outrageous save. Like, his body weight's gone one way, he's gone back, clawed it out from behind the line. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic save. What I really liked was you could see the anguish in him when the goal went in. Like, he was furious that his clean sheet was gone. It really meant something to him. That's a really positive sign. I thought his kicking was really good, particularly off his weaker left foot. He looks so comfortable receiving the ball with on-rushing attackers, always seems to have that little bit of time and space. This is the Queeving Kelleher that we got used to a couple of years ago. And he's obviously gotten to play a decent amount this year because Ali's had a couple of injuries, and obviously we're doing well in so many different trophies. But this is really positive, seeing Kelleher play like this, from an Irish point of view as well, because, you know, the national team does matter to us, however bad they may be. Still a bit of pride there. But all over the pitch, I thought we got really strong performances. I thought Ibu and Virgil, given how aggressive we were playing and the fact that they were being left 2v2 a lot, were very, very good. Robbo played well in the first half. Second half, I thought defensively he was a little bit lacking, particularly on their goal. I think that largely comes from a Robbo error where he's just too aggressive. Bradley was excellent again. You just love to see it for the kid, especially after what he's just been through. The 3 starting midfielders were all good. Endo obviously just so combative. Alexis is just such a great connector. Like, he is vital to us in his ability to link the defence and the midfield, especially when Trent isn't there, and then link the midfield to the attack. Jones, before he went off, I thought he was the best player on the pitch. There was one touch he had where the ball dropped and he just managed, kind of took it on the outside of his foot and swiveled into space. Then he had that brilliant little defensive intervention he had as well, where he got back, saw off Ivan Toney, turned one way, turned the other, and then showed great composure to retain the ball, wait for the right pass to present itself and play the right ball. Just really, really good. And massive credit to Gravenberch, because we've hammered him on this podcast multiple times and he's deserved it each time. Today, I thought he was really good. The work rate was there. The pressing seemed more purposeful. He used his physique quite well. He linked the play quite well. He played a couple of lovely little passes. There was one lovely little disguised ball that he played into Mo for that Diaz chance that you mentioned earlier. So credit to him. And then, I mean, the front 3 that started, Jota was absolutely outstanding. Like, just brilliant. The dribble he had, where he just used his strength to see off 2 players. He has this incredible ability to dribble with the ball where he kind of keeps it between his feet. The ball never seems to, it's almost like it's on a string. It never seems to go more than a half foot from his feet. And he's moving at full pace. Really, really good. And you just have to hope that injury isn't serious. Diaz looks a lot more like Diaz. Early on, he was a bit frustrating. He wouldn't take on the centre-back who was stepping out to mark him. Second half, he just looked far more full of confidence, was going at players, was doing all the Luis Diaz things. Darwin got a brilliant goal, and again, we'll have to hope that that's nothing serious. Salah is, along with Thierry Henry, the greatest attacker the Premier League has seen. He's just different class. Scores one, makes one. Should have had another when he got through 1v1 after what was arguably the best pass of the game by Virgil with his head. Like, most centre-backs step out to head that ball and just head it away as far as they can. Virgil sees Mo and plays the perfect pass with his head. We've had midfielders who couldn't play that ball with their feet, and he's done it with his head. Cody, I was delighted to see him get the goal and get an assist, because the first few moments he had in the game weren't great. Mo put him in at one point. He made the wrong decision. He had the one where he ran onto a ball from Diaz and slipped. And you were just thinking, it's going to be one of these days for Cody. But got himself an assist, got a goal. All things considered, to come out of Brentford with a 4-1 win, put a bit of a marker down, give ourselves, the comfortable advantage. Now, Arsenal are winning 3-0, so, they're going to be 2 points behind us. But they remain behind us, and they've got a harder run of games in the lead into the end of the season than we do. So all of this is positive. All of this is positive. The one thing we just have to hope for is that those injuries are nothing too serious.
For sure. Do, for the sake of it, outline the multiple podcasts that you will be putting forward.
So Daily Red and Two Footed, I think I'm every day this week. There will be most likely a couple of Scouteds, because we've got Luton and then the Cup final, so there'll be 2 of them. I think myself and Dave Davis are going to get together with and do another couple of Next Dance pods, looking at a couple more managerial candidates. And myself and yourself will be getting together to do a couple of Buzz podcasts, including a part 2 of the greatest movie ever made, which people will have to wait and find out what movie that is when part 1 drops in the next day or two. And obviously we'll be doing the last episode of True Detective, which will be our second to last podcast in the True Detective series that we're doing. So lots and lots to come, and you never know, there might be something else as well during the week if something crops up.
If something crops up, you can be sure there'll be something else, because
there'll be Raw as well, obviously, for Luke.
There'll be midweek Raw as well. Yeah, that's kind of what we do around here. So you can be rest assured, folks, if anything is happening, you'll be kept abreast of it. Even if it's just a sad news injury pod, these are the things that we do around here. Harry, to finish the show with yourself, then your wrap-up thoughts, and do let people know about what's coming from you too.
You're just reiterating on the performances. I thought there were, to echo Dave, loads of really encouraging performances from players that we're going to need over the next couple of weeks, maybe months as well, given how long some of these players may be out, unfortunately. But Grav, who I spoke about at the start of the pod, thought grasped his opportunity. I mean, he's coming in there for a player that is an automatic first name on the team sheet in Jones, who. We spoke about his performance, some of the touches, some of the composure in difficult moments. He's been just essential to us, really. He is in Liverpool's best team at the moment on the form that he's shown for a long time now. So had big shoes to fill when he came on. And we've seen him struggle in games. So I thought that he put himself about. The physicality that he showed in the game was great. Neat and tidy on the ball. A bit more tenacious than I've seen as well, in terms of him trying to win the ball back and not just accepting that he wasn't going to win it if he didn't get it on the first go. So really encouraging performance for him, I think. And he needs to be being told now that this is the level you need to maintain it if you want to be taking part in the next couple of games. Yes, there's a space up for grabs, but you need to show that level of performance. So we thought it was really great for him. And just I think we talked about the centre backs, and I think Virgil warrants a mention now. I think it's the all-time most wins in the first 250 appearances for Liverpool. Virgil is now at the top. It's 250 appearances for Liverpool and 171 wins in those 250 games. So,
wow.
Yeah, for those who, yes, he may or may not have the dribbled pass trophy anymore, which I'm sure he'll be gutted about. That has, I think it's Saliba's or whatever. But I think it's clear for all to see that he's an outstanding player, and just the impact he's had on this side is clear. And from one outstanding player to another who's had a transformational sort of impact on this Liverpool side. And we're talking about him. Dave mentioned Thierry Henry there. Salah's now scored or assisted in 30 different Premier League games. The names ahead of him, Wayne Rooney on 36, Thierry Henry on 32, Alan Shearer on 31. I think he'll probably eat all of those up by the time he's done. So it's soon going to become only Mo Salah, another one of those stats to his book. But for him, it's remarkable, right? He's been away. The longest injury absence that we've experienced with him. You didn't really know what to expect, other than the fact that you knew he'd be in peak physical condition and be doing everything possible to get back. But I think Si's highlighted it, and Dave mentioned it as well. But 34 touches, 21 of 21 passes, so 100, didn't lose the ball.
Yeah. Sensational.
A goal, assist, a big chance created. Probably should have scored another one. Successful dribbles all over there as well. Won the ball back more than he lost it. He's just an incredible player, and in my opinion, he's the best player in the league. So, as dispiriting as those injuries may have been, hopefully for the rest of the league, it was incredibly dispiriting to see Mo Salah come back and announce his return in that fashion. A lot was made of De Bruyne's return and the impact he had, and so hopefully it'll be a similar sort of shiver down the spine when it comes to Salah's return. Anyway, so wrapping it up for me, just that there'll be another rivalry con ahead of the Luton game, and there'll be another one for game against Nottingham Forest as well. I'm actually up for the Luton game, taking my parents up to that game, so hopefully that's a fun one before the cup on the weekend. So a couple pods there from me, up the Reds.
Can I just give a couple of quick stats as well here, because some of these are quite interesting. So these are from Michael Reed on Twitter. Cody Gakpo is the fourth player to score 10-plus goals for Liverpool this season, after Salah with 19, Jota with 14 and Nunez with 13 in Liverpool's 38th game. It's the earliest into a season Liverpool have had 4 players on 10 goals or more since the 80-81 season, where Terry McDermott, Graham Souness, Dalglish and Johnson all scored 10 plus within 31 games. Now, Souness scored a hat-trick against some Finnish team, so, stat padding in the European competitions is something we can all get on board with. But just on the Virgil one, the 171 wins in 250 games. Now, Trev, we're both old enough, and Harry's wise enough to realise that the golden era of Liverpool was is the Bob Paisley era into Joe Fagan and then into the Kenny era. That is Liverpool's golden era of football, right? All-time most wins in the first 250 appearances for Liverpool. Van Dijk, 171. Trent, 168. Alisson, 164. Sadio Mane, 163. Andy Robertson, 163. Mohamed Salah, 162. That is the top 6 in our history are part of this team. Then you've got Alan Kennedy on 160, Steve McMahon on 155, and Ian Rush on 153. That's how good these players have been for this long. And you've got Ginny Wijnaldum there bringing up the 10 spot, 151 wins. And he played 237 games. So you would imagine Ginny would have gotten probably over Alan Kennedy and would probably be sitting alongside Mo in that kind of region. 13 games, you probably factor he'd have won 9 or 10 of them. Considering the season we had in 21-22, he probably would have won 9 or 10 of them. So he'd be in 7. So the 7 players with the most wins for Liverpool in the first 250 games, all under Jurgen. That is just incredible to think about how good these players have been and how important they've been. But it also points to, people always say Jurgen works miracles at Liverpool, and he has done an incredible job. Nobody would ever suggest otherwise. But he is leaving behind world-class players who know how to win a lot of football games. He's leaving Virgil, he's leaving Mo, he's leaving Alisson, he's leaving Trent. Those lads are going to be there for the next manager. And that's why we should enjoy the shit out of what we have left with Jurgen. But we should also be really excited about what the future holds, because this is not a team or a club in need of a major rebuild. This is Jurgen Klopp leaving behind, as Bill Shankly did, a club ready to go to the next level, to continue to improve, to ascend, to win even more. And that will be Jurgen's real legacy. Not what he does while he's here, but what he leaves behind. And that's Bill Shankly's legacy at the club. It's what he built. It's the same with Jurgen. His real legacy will be what he's built here. What a man.
Yeah, and hopefully that legacy has a couple more highlights, which we will document here on Raw for you, because that would be very much how we all want this season to end. If you missed it, I am back on my bullshit with Mr. Jan Mulby. That went out on Thursday. We did AIP on Friday with Cam and with Lisa Marie. And we will have, as Dave says, another 2 Buzz podcasts, which is the ratio that we're doing now for the last 4 weeks. In the week to come, along with more Mr. Mulby and all sorts of other things. If you're not listening to Harry's shows, you're not listening to Dave's shows, then you're making a mistake with your life. So make sure that you change that. And the content across the channel in general is always wonderful. So give yourself the opportunity of exposing yourself to some new stuff from Anfield Index, Anfield Index Pro, if you haven't already. I've been Trev Downey. That was Dave Hendrick, Hari Sethi, Guy Drinkles producing. This is Raw. We'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.